Good morning, everyone. Welcome to an episode of Coffee Break with CARD, La Hora del Cafecito Sister Show. My name is Lourdes Quinones, and I would like to welcome you to the show. Come on in, sign in over there in the boxes, and let us know if you're drinking a cup of coffee, tea, whatever it is you might be having this morning. Anyway, Coffee Break with CARD is a program dedicated to all those in our community who are living with autism, to their family members, and to all those who support them. So come on in. Would love to say hi to you. Thank you for being here. So, in today's program, we have the pleasure of interviewing Felicia Jehaludi, who will be sharing with us how she got connected and found a community after her son's autism diagnosis, as well as she'll be sharing with others who are starting their autism journey, some comments, some advice that she thinks it might be appropriate for those of you who are just starting your journey. So join us, come on in and let us know that you're here so we can say hello, okay? We'd love to talk to you about the things that bring us to the table today, okay? So let's get started. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce to you our coffee break hostesses for today, as well as our guests for the day. My name is Lourdes Quinones, as I mentioned before, and I am a CARD consultant assigned to the early age group. Professionally, I'm also a pediatric physical therapist, as well as a special education teacher. I am joined today by my colleagues, Jasmine Castellano. Buenos dias, Jasmine.
Buenos días, Lourdes. Good morning, everyone.
As well as Olivia McDonald. Buenos dias, Olivia.
Buenos dias. Good morning.
And as also by Felicia Jehaludi. Good morning, Felicia.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you. As you know, Jasmine Castellano is an excellent professional in the field of mental health. She is a CARD consultant assigned to the youth group from middle school to high school to young adults, actually. And she's the mother of three, one of whom is diagnosed with autism. So welcome, Jasmine.
Thank you, Lourdes.
Olivia McDonald is an excellent professional in the field of public health. She is a CARD consultant assigned to the primary age group, just like me. And Olivia is the mother of two and has a younger brother diagnosed with autism. So welcome, Olivia.
Thank you, Lourdes.
But before we get started, we want to review the rules we want to adhere to during this programming to ensure a safe environment for all of us. We'd like to ask you to please keep an open mind, a positive attitude, and use respectful language. We like to keep the place safe and free from anything that might make any of us uncomfortable. So thank you for following those rules. So Olivia, before we get started and introduce and talk about more of our wonderful guest, Felicia, is there anyone we want to say hello, or are there any comments or questions at this point?
Yes, so I want to say good morning to Felicia and I's friend Carla. Good morning, Carla.
Good morning.
You made it.
Good morning, Carla. Thank you for being here.
And also Philomena, our number one fan.
Philomena, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Margot and Mark. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Margot and Mark. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. So thank you, thank you. So for those of you who are just joining us in today's program, we have the pleasure of interviewing Felicia Jehaludi, who will be sharing with us how she got connected and found a community soon after her son's autism diagnosis. She'll also be sharing some advice to others who are just getting started in their autism journey. So come on in, let us know that you're here, and thank you. Thank you for joining us. We have a lot to talk about, okay? So we are going to be talking directly to you, Felicia. So again, welcome for being here. And and I'd like for you to be able to tell our audience a little bit about yourself so that we already introduced the hostesses. So let's introduce you. Can you tell us about yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Felicia Jehaludi, and I'm a mom of two boys. Faraz is 10 years old and has autism, and Fazir is 8 years old and is neurotypical. I work closely with the Autism Society of Florida. I help run a virtual parent support group for families with children and adults on the spectrum. I am also a very active mom at my boys' school.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Mhm.
So, Felicia, what prompted you to evaluate Faraz for autism, and what was the process like for your family?
Okay. Faraz was about 1 year old when his pediatrician advised us that he was not hitting his milestones. After his 1 year old immunizations and flu shots, we started noticing a regression in Faraz's speech. His pediatrician referred us to a neurologist. It took over 6 months to get an appointment. At first, I was worried what the neurologist would say. My research on the pediatric neurology had brought up things like nerve conditions, seizures. The neurologist did some testing. The process was time consuming, but the evaluation was fairly simple. At 2 years old, Faraz was diagnosed with autism. I was definitely surprised by the results. I didn't even realize they were looking at autism because the neurologist had used lingo like ADOS instead of autism evaluation. I didn't know much at the time about autism, and he was my first child, and I had videos of him babbling and saying hi that I was just confused, worried, and fearful of what was coming next.
Awesome.
That must have been just kind of almost like blindsided if that word hadn't even really been brought up in conversation. What were some of the first steps that you took after receiving the diagnosis? And, as part of that, how did you first start getting connected with the autism community?
I believe my first steps that I took after receiving the diagnosis was basically Google and reading about autism. I also started to set up therapy services with early steps, speech and occupational therapists. I started to learn and speak with those therapists. The first 9 months was mostly me reading and accepting what autism was. At that time, Faraz was aging out of early steps and was moving on to Child Find to get into an intensive preschool. I started doing research on the schools, and I went and toured a preschool, and I thought it was a good school. Faraz began there at age 3, and it was amazing. The school provided lots of parent training classes and had speakers come in to talk about a wide variety of strategies and organizations. I learned so much and was so grateful for it.
Awesome. And I wanted to say that we do have videos of episodes in the past that we've done about early childhood and child find programs here in Florida. So for those of you who may be new to Florida or may just be new to our channel and all that stuff, just know that we have a channel in YouTube called CARD-USF. And we have various playlists, among which is one for Coffee Break with CARD, as well as other playlists. And you can find more information on other videos that we've done in the past, including those for early childhood and child find programs, which are so important. So let me ask you something, Felicia. How has connecting with other parents with autistic children helped you?
Well, connecting with other parents of autistic children was a feeling of relief that I was not alone. It helped me put my own experiences into perspective when hearing of others' journeys with autism. My autism circle, my friends who have autistic children, can understand not only why certain things are so challenging, but also why sometimes they seem small is really a huge victory for Faraz. It has also helped me in learning about resources. Early on, I met a mom who I became friends with, and her kiddos were a little older, and she shared all of her resources with me. I learned about CARD, I learned about APD, Agency Persons for Disability, PEPSA, ESC advisory meetings, autism committee meetings through the district, and the respite facility like JAFCO. I learned about advocacy and IEPs. All this information meant I could really start navigating instead of going forward blindly. The more meetings I went to, the more resources I learned about, Even when the same resources were shared, it was comforting because I knew I had my bases covered. Like I knew the information, which was nice.
Exactly. Very, very good, Felicia. And that's so important. And that's one of the things that we always encourage our parents to do, just to educate themselves so they can better advocate for their child.
Yeah.
So unlike 30 or 20 years ago, it is a lot easier to connect with other families online these days, especially like, for example, Facebook groups, etc. In your opinion, what are some of the pros and cons of trying to find community in a Facebook group versus an in-person meeting or meetup?
Well, I feel that Facebook groups can be helpful, especially if you don't have a lot of opportunities to meet other families in person. However, you need to be open-minded because there will be people whose opinions might conflict or go against your own opinions. Also, I just like anything that is on social media. You can have a bit of an extreme with people only posting their best or worst news. In-person connections are amazing if available. So you can make friends and learn from one another. Virtual meetings or support groups also are great to help share resources and make friends. Whatever way you decide to make those connections, consistency is key if you want to develop relationships. There are some groups I have been attending for 7 years. I don't go to support groups only if something is wrong. It's important to support others too, and not just look for support for yourself.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Yeah. So how can you give back as well? Because we all have
Right.
our ways and things we have learned, right? So we can share those experiences as well. Great. Thank you for sharing that.
I think the point about consistency is really important too. Actually, that's how Felicia and I met, was through an online support group. Like for going on, it's been 4 years now that we've been friends through that. But it was just because we, both of us kept coming back every single week, and now it's once a month. But we always show up, and that's how even though we've never met in person, that's how we've become friends.
Yeah. Awesome. So, Olivia?
So connecting with other families obviously can be a really great source of information. However, do you ever find it to be like kind of too much of a good thing, like too much information? And how do you balance, wanting to stay connected, but also not wanting to be kind of overwhelmed?
I think in the beginning, I wanted to learn and know everything when I first found out. I attended a lot of support groups and resource seminars. However, it's a lot of information. I do find that sometimes some of the information and resources can be overwhelming and too much, especially if it doesn't pertain to that child's age. My advice is to work on the resources that are most important, like applying for med waiver or are relevant now or in the next 2 years. Finding a balance takes time. For me, I started attending a lot. And as I learned, I started to scale back to help find the balance. For example, I learned about guardianship early on. However, that wasn't something we needed right away. So I didn't go to follow-up seminars on guardianship.
Yeah. And that's, I thought that was a great point that you made about the fact that you were going to those places and seeking that information led you to realize, first of all, that you needed to be more selective about what kind of information you consumed at the moment, right? Because it has to do with the relevancy of what you have, your needs are, your child's needs are at this point in time. But also what I found very interesting was because you were being exposed, you heard of things that although you may not need yet, it's now in your awareness. It's now in your realm of awareness. For example, guardianship. I've had calls here at CARD where it's like, my child is turning 18 next week, and I just heard something about guardianship. And so if that's the first time you hear about guardianship and they're just about to turn 18, you're about to lose your parental rights, whether they're able to make decisions for themselves or not, that's a little bit too late. You know what I mean? Like by the time the paperwork gets done in that, there's going to be a gap of time and the process is going to be different on the approach of guardianship, right? After the fact, after they turn 18, because as adults, they become adults, parents lose that ability to make decisions for their child, whether they're neurotypical or not, and so I thought that was a great point, that the fact that you're going and seeking groups and seeking communities, you were able to find information that at some point is going to be very useful for you. So it's in your awareness. And B, I thought it was great that you were being selective about the type of your recommendation for parents to be selective about the type of information they need at the moment. Concentrate on that, but be aware of what else is down the road, right? So that was great.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, anyway, is there anything else you would like to share with our audience?
I would like to say definitely stay involved in the schools and the districts. Joining PTAs and SACs and staffs, learning about advocacy and the child's IEP rights, joining support groups and supporting each other, and always sharing the experiences with others. You never know how it can help someone else. If you're a working parent and a lot of meetings are streamed and recorded, try to, take time to view those. Even if you can't make a meeting, you might be able to go back and listen when it's convenient. It definitely takes a village, and I just feel that that's best.
Yeah. And something that I mentioned at the other show in the Spanish version of it, which is something we have in the past interviewed also a mother who, in the absence of groups that met her needs, and this also relates to people who may be in an area that it's rural perhaps, or it's not, the communities is harder to find. She created her own group, and it's professional in a way because she connected with other professionals who could bring that information. So as a parent, she was learning information, but she was realizing she also needed more information. So she started reaching out to other professionals. She's a professional herself in the field of mental health. So she knew enough to find other individuals, and they created their own. And with that said, in our YouTube channel, we also have a video related and a presentation related to creating your own group, because there might come a time that there's not one that meets your needs, or in the area that you need your needs. So you may just have to be the starting point, right?
Yeah.
Have you found that to be the case?
Yes, I think so. I mean, it's a simple. You
Yep.
can start small and then move up as it gets easier.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
as things pertain to you.
Yeah, families in your area that may share interest, or because it might be interest based, it might be just related to autism, but sometimes it's like maybe you want to create a group that it's not only about autism, maybe it is a little league, or something like that, but it becomes a support group for everybody else. So we do have a video on that on our CARD-USF YouTube channel, so be sure to watch that. But anyway, so for those of you who are watching, if you have any questions or comments, whether it's while we're on the air or after we come off the air, be sure to leave it over there in the comment section, and we'll come back to it and be sure to answer you, or forward any responses or questions to Felicia, to make sure that she's able to address any direct questions to her. But anyway, so if you have any comments, just let us know. Remember that if we use your comments or questions to create a future program, we'll be sure to give you credit on the air for giving us that idea. Okay, so that is something very important. Well, talking about that, do we have any questions at this point?
Yes. So one question for Felicia was if you could clarify what SAC staff is and kind of what was the benefit for you.
Okay, so it's a student advisory community meeting, and SAC is the Student Advisory Forum. And so those are the acronyms of them. But basically, they're a meeting that you attend through your elementary, middle, high school, and that you would go to. And it gives you opportunities to volunteer, to get involved, for the schools to know who you are. As a parent, you're getting involved in the school meetings. And so that gives you an opportunity to get closely with the school, to have a better relationship with them.
Exactly. Perfect. Yeah. One of our colleagues is a leader at her own school's, her son's school, SAC. Yeah. So shout out to our colleague, Shambria. Anyway.
And then another, I guess this is kind of a follow-up, is about advice for, I guess, figuring out what groups are, how do you know, like, if it's a group is going to be good for you?
So if it's, for me, if it's a social media group based on Facebook or whatever other platform it may be, I would say try them all. You know, you kind of have to see where is the right place for you, what fits and what's comfortable, and what makes you want to go back to it the next month or whenever they meet again, right? But it's I think it's finding that comfort. You might find support groups that age from maybe all younger parents, maybe that are middle school parents, maybe that are older adult parents. So I think you just have to find the right group that you're comfortable with. And then I think that works. But don't give up. Keep looking, because there's definitely the support there. You just have to find the right fit.
Okay.
And if not, create your own. Again,
create your own.
Yeah, create your own, because you might be the leader who, and even if you don't consider yourself a leader at this time, you might just be answering some other parents' needs, right?
Yes.
And by coming, and again, that's what the video and the training in our channel about how to start a group, some considerations, it goes step by step on what things to consider, what, you know, from starting from nothing, why would I want to, and it answers those questions as to what to look for, you know, and how to pass on the baton, basically, so you're not overwhelmed also with all the responsibilities of running the thing. So the presentation really guides you through that process, and again, it could be something related to an area of interest, to an age group, to something that, or as even sports related, you know, that you may just start and then becomes a community that supports each other, and it may just be the right thing at the right time at the right place. So we really
and Lourdes, I just want to mention one thing, is that I know I talked about like public schools and so forth, but there's also a lot of schools that if you're a homeschooling parent, or if you are private, or, you know, so it's to all. I mean, I don't want to just subject it to just private schools. I mean, to public schools, but to all in general.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And talking about the community of homeschool, they do that. They come together, even though they're homeschooling, they're homeschooling their children. They find a way to come together and then have some in-person time so the children can socialize. So it basically goes back to the same thing. So yeah, thank you for making that point, that this applies to everyone in all types of schools. Perfect.
The other follow-up was, I know we shared some information on the Spanish show, but could you talk a little bit about the support group that you facilitate?
Sure. So I would have never have thought that I would have started running a support group. When I first started, again, I was a mom of a 3-year-old who thought, okay, I'm going to these support groups and they're going to benefit me and help me. And then I started working closely with the Autism Society of Florida. And I thought, well, okay, I got offered to be the host of the virtual support group during COVID. And I thought, okay, I was a little nervous. I was like, all right, maybe I could do this. And I mean, as I met Olivia and a lot of great parents, that continue to come and show up to our virtual support group. And that means a lot to me, because I mean, it speaks volumes that they're still interested to come and feel supported. And we are like a little family, right? Mm-hmm. And so at least they know they can reach out to each other. In that support group, sometimes we have families that are in the same cities, and they connect and share information and share phone numbers. And so far, I mean, even though it's virtually, because of the fact that it's Florida, it's so wide, like broad, right? Because it could be anybody in the state of Florida that can join it. So it's kind of nice. But overall, again, I would never have thought that I would have been the person running a support group. But over the time.
So what is it called?
It's Autism Society of Florida's Parent Support Group.
Parent Support Group. Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when do we meet?
When do you meet?
We meet the first Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. Yes. So once a month, the first Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m.
So now you know that. So it's Autism Society of Florida Parent Support Group every first Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. via Facebook.
And if you're eating dinner or putting the kids to bed like I am, that's totally okay. You can multitask.
Yeah. Yes, we kind of keep it a very open forum. I kind of go around the room, and if you're comfortable in sharing, then you share. And if you're not comfortable, maybe you're just not ready yet, and that's totally okay. Yeah. Come in and listen. Just sit and listen. You don't have to be open and ready to share. When you are ready, and that time will come, after listening to others share their stories and experiences, I think it becomes easier to want to share your own.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Excellent. So, well, that brings us almost to the end of the show, but I didn't want for us to leave without, first of all, saying thank you to you, Felicia, for answering our questions, and to Olivia for bringing this information to us, and for being here. So thank you, Felicia.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. So anyway, I also wanted to let you know that, remind you that we come live on Facebook every other week at 10:45-ish a.m. And our next show will be, or episode will be, September 6th. So be sure to save that on your calendar so that you can meet us here. You can't miss it. And before we leave, one last favor, which I usually ask for, is that you go ahead and click on the link that we are going to be adding, where we have a very short, it's like 6 questions survey, real quick, give us a rating. This is the way that we can justify the time that it takes us to produce this type of programming, as well as to be on the air with you. Taking time to do this, so thank you, so we can keep the lights on. Okay. So we'll thank you. Even if you've done it before, we need one of these every time we go on the air. So thank you ahead of time for doing that for us. We really, really appreciate it. Okay. So anyway, that brings us to the end of the show, but we didn't want to leave without reminding you to please give us a like, to share this video on your page and with anyone who might benefit from this type of programming and this type of topic. And be sure to meet us here every other Friday at 10:45-ish a.m. And so we can, share a cup of coffee with us, and we can spill the beans on topics related to autism. But until then, we want to wish you good vibes and hot coffee. See you next time. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
You too.